Boy, that time flies when you're scalping away for profits here, doesn't it, folks? Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to you guys and gals. The 26th of February, 2014. Welcome back to your nightly newsletter. My name is Joseph James. I'm the CEO, founder, and head trader at schooloftrade.com. Welcome back. Question for you this evening. What do all-time highs, Russia, a $1.4 billion loss, and the Grand Tetons all have in common? I'll give you a hint. No, it was not my Friday night last weekend. No, it wasn't the reason why I was out sick on Monday. I promise you that. If you want to know what they all have in common, you better watch here as we go through our newsletter. We're going to talk about what happened today. We'll take a look at the markets today. We'll talk about the news that happened today. We'll talk about some saber rattling out of Russia. What is saber rattling? Hold on tight for that. We'll go into what's happening tomorrow. A little bit of this day in history. Got some exciting things for you guys this evening. My favorite time of the newsletter. And then, of course, our new format for our newsletter is a 2-video series, I guess you would say. And so when we're done this first portion, we're going to move over to looking at charts and get ready for tomorrow's price action. We get a ton of news for tomorrow that should have no problem getting us moving and shaking tomorrow morning. First of all, are we having fun yet? Are we having fun yet? I'll tell you right now, the scalpers out there are the only ones enjoying the party right now. All right? We are the very minority of the traders right now that are able to really make any money in these markets. If you're trying to buy and hold, sell and hold, equities, obviously, yeah, right? We should all have a portion of our income in equities. But for the most part, though, as far as intraday trades go, the scalpers are having all the fun. We can't predict right now. We saw gold close at the highs last night. Remember this? Go back and look 24 hours ago. Gold closed at the highs, volume at the highs. What happened? Gap down overnight. What? Where'd that come from? What happened? Who cares? All we know right now is that these markets welcome in the new normal, folks. Welcome in the new normal. Whatever you thought you knew about price action, technical analysis, trend analysis, take it and throw it out the window, because apparently right now, only thing that matters right now is what's happening right now. The past does not mean a thing right now, and we can see that. Because it doesn't matter how many days in a row we've been going higher. It doesn't matter. One little news event, one little hiccup, one little military exercise in Russia, and everybody freaks out. Obviously, this is a very important situation in Russia. But the reality is, guys, is that if we're trying to predict, if we're trying to outline for the next 6 months, 6 years, good luck. I feel bad for all the hedge fund managers out there that have put themselves in positions where they have these huge positions. Difficult trading for larger block traders right now. We're having all the fun in our trade room right now, scalping, making all the money in these short-term moves. It's a lot easier to get 10 moves of 10 ticks each than it is to call a 100-tick move right now. And that's where we're seeing a lot of success as intraday scalpers, meaning that I'm in and out of trades many times every day, nickels and dimes adding up to dollar bills. Well, then I take that dollar bill and I look for dollar bills, add up to Benjamins, right? That's how we do it in our trade room. What happened today? First of all, let's go back and think about what happened last night. We gave you guys some excellent opportunities last night in last night's newsletter. Wait, you didn't watch the second half? Guys, don't forget about the second half. After you're done watching this video, scroll down a little bit. I'm going to make you work for it, right? Scroll down a little bit and watch the second half of this newsletter. Because last night, I gave you 3 different opportunities to trade gold, crude, and Russell. And all 3 of them made you money today. First of all, gold tumbled. We didn't get any buy opportunities on gold. Gold went belly up and dropped overnight. We had a selling opportunity on gold today at 1332.6. Don't take my word for it, guys. Go back and watch last night's newsletter. You'll see me talk about it, right? It's in the second portion, the second half of the newsletter. The mini Russell, nice buy there at 1169.6. And crude oil, grabbed the short at 102.93. So there were plenty of opportunities for you folks to use last night's newsletter to profit today. You ready for tonight's? Don't forget, second portion of this newsletter, there were 3 opportunities today that were brought to you last night on the newsletter. Make sure you watch. How about today's markets? Crude oil up 136 ticks today. Actually, 132 ticks, on crude of range, up just about 14 basis points, so 0.14%. Amazing how crude oil got pushed from 103. We thought for sure we were going right back to 100. Nope, not so fast. Right back up to 102.58. And you can really thank this issue coming out in Russia, this issue between Russia and Ukraine right now is I'm really surprised, actually. I'm surprised we didn't go higher on crude today. Crude obviously gapped up today. It erased Tuesday's losses back to 103. So we almost got back to 103. We went to 102.90 towards the end of the session today and then backed off. As I'm watching it right now, we're right back to the current week open at 102.34. You can see it right here. Move higher. 102.90, we pegged that 102.90, but again, coming back here to 102.34, 102.50 area after the closing bell. Gold, the big mover today was gold. 233 ticks on gold, but it didn't move in the big picture very much. 233 ticks, a pretty active day on gold. We had a lot of action on gold today, but it only ended the day down by 0.02%, so less than half of 1%, 1329.8. Now gold, which you can see right here, gold gapped down and then kept going lower. You can see this downward trajectory on the gold chart. So ending the day 1329.8. I got us right now at 1330. And then of course your mini Russell, go Russell. I'll tell you, we're sitting here in the trade room today. Go baby, go baby. Russell pushing back above those all-time highs. 171 ticks of range today, moving just over a half of 1%. Again, the big deal here is that 1181 we pushed, exceeded those all-time highs. The S&P couldn't get above it. NASDAQ did, but we're one of the only E-minis right now that have been able to exceed and stay above those all-time highs, ending the day today at 1181 even. So pretty remarkable to see these equities back at all-time highs. So crude gap up, erases all of Monday's losses or Tuesday's losses. Gold gaps down, kept on moving lower, and Russell opened up. Actually, Russell opened up right in the middle of yesterday's range. It chopped around a little while, but that 10 o'clock news this morning really gave it a good jump start and pushed it higher. Speaking of news, today was a very busy news day. It started out this morning with rumors that Russia was going to be doing a military, exercise conveniently on the border of Ukraine and Russia. Now remember, if you aren't familiar with the history of this, in 1991, right, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia and the Ukraine became separate countries. They are extremely intertwined. In fact, Vladimir Putin refers to the Ukraine as being the little Russia. So, of course, Ukraine wishes that Russia wouldn't flex their military muscles as often. Ukraine wishes that Russia would treat them seriously and not leverage their power, right, their size. Basically, Russia is being a bully to the Ukrainian people. And today, NATO actually came out and said, wait a second, we support Ukraine to have their own country, right, and please respect that. Well, of course, that's not going to stop our good friends over in Russia from conveniently setting up a military exercise on the border between Russia and Ukraine. Right. That's like back when when I was a kid. I've got 3 younger brothers, right? My younger brother is 5 years younger than me, right? Pretty close to Russia and Ukraine. And of course, you know what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to get right up as close to him as I can and see how much I can annoy him and just make him want to scream and retaliate. Right? It's amazing how a country as diverse and as experienced, the country of Russia predates the United States by, twice our age. It's amazing to see such childish actions coming out of such a well-established country such as Russia. Does Russia really have to throw their weight around like that and bully? I don't think so. I think we all know that Russia can pretty much do whatever they want. But it's amazing, though, to see that in such a unique part of the world, the same things happen that happen in our own backyards. And that's today what led to most of the volatility. It's what led to crude pushing higher, that's for sure. I was amazed, though, when I heard this, what they call saber rattling, saber being from the Star Wars movies, right? Bzz, bzz, right? Saber rattling. Saber rattling in Ukraine basically means they're antagonizing them, right? They're antagonizing them. Now, why would I say that crude oil was going to be affected by this. Because in order for natural resources to get from Russia to Europe, okay, remember, you've got to go through Ukraine. So if we have bad blood between Ukraine and Russia, everybody suffers in Europe all the way to Asia. And of course, you know what's going to happen. Speculators will bid up on crude, and crude will usually rise. I was very surprised here on crude. It was probably because we didn't get very much out of the inventory number. So saber rattling in Russia leads to volatility today. That was the reason why crude pushed higher, a little bit from the inventory report, but mostly because of that issue coming out of Ukraine and Russia. The E-mini, big news today. E-mini S&P still trying to close above all-time highs. The NASDAQ tests but couldn't close. NASDAQ tests the 17-year highs today. And as we talked about this earlier, the Russell actually exceeded all-time highs and pushed right there and kept on going today. New home sales. This was the big news of the day today, outside, of course, of the saber rattling in the Ukraine. But the new home sales today had a year-over-year of 9.6% in the month of January. That is a record-breaking number. We haven't seen a number this powerful on new home sales. Now remember, there are a bunch of different home sales, right? There's pending home sales, existing home sales, there's new home sales, okay? This is brand new homes, year-over-year, 9.6%. That's what got these E-minis pushing higher. In fact, if you look back at your Russell chart, you can pretty much see right at 9:30, that's when everything turned around. Sorry, right at 10 o'clock, excuse me. Right at 10 o'clock, we had just left the opening range going lower. And then just like that, news came out and it was off of the races. All-time highs, exceeded all-time highs, and kept going. Pretty cool to see that news come out and just immediately seeing the equity markets react to it. One of the reasons why we love watching news. And then crude inventories. Crude oil inventories really were kind of a downer today. They came out flat. They were a little bit lower than they were expecting. They were expecting a build in inventories, but they didn't get as much. So they were expecting 1 million. I think they got like a couple 100,000. So it was one of those scenarios where they were expecting much more, didn't get as much as they were expecting. It was within expectations, but pretty much a flat number on crude. And remember, we talked about this yesterday. You've got to be careful on crude before the event comes out. And then after the event, we saw that spike up. Well, I actually missed that spike up because the news wasn't clear enough. That news just wasn't there. And we hadn't quite seen that jump yet. So I avoided the buy at about 10:35. At about 10:35 here, we jumped up just shy of that 102.90. But I didn't miss the reversal coming off the highs. So it was actually pretty interesting in the trading this morning. See, the news pushed that price higher on crude. Remember, we always try to wait about 15 minutes after inventories come out. And whatever rises quickly usually falls quickly, right? Big pops, big drops. I love to fade news events, especially crude oil inventories, because usually those rookies and retail traders, they jump it up. I don't know why, but every time we have inventories on crude oil, the initial reaction is up. It just always happens that way. It's like somebody hears the word crude oil and they go, oh my God, buy it, right? Everyone's so scared of crude oil for some reason. So it's relatively easy, if you stay patient, to fade that news. So wait for it to jump up, sell it, bring it right back down to where it began. That's where I made my money today on the crude oil inventories. See, a lot of people think you've got to catch the move after news. Why? Why try to be the first one in line? Just wait for everybody to jump in, get it to push up, wait for it to stall out at the highs, and then look out below, bring it back down. All right? Easy money today on crude. Would have liked to have had more opportunities on crude today, but it was pretty sloppy out there until after the news. And again, you heard what I said. I missed the move up, but sold it short back down. So news today, pretty active. Wait till you see the news for tomorrow. Moving forward, though, here this afternoon, one of my favorite times of the newsletter, This Day in History. This is pretty cool stuff tonight. February 26th. Is that what it is today? Yep, February 26th, 1870. Now, this is some pretty cool history. New York City opens the first pneumatic subway system. A 300 feet long that leads to basically the future of mass transit. This is a pretty cool little invention they had here. In 1870, a 100 horsepower fan. Now remember, the word pneumatic means air pressure. So the idea was a 300-foot tunnel, all right, with a 100 horsepower fan at one end It's pressurized, and that blows the... I know. It sounds pretty effective, right? Almost as effective as taking a piece of string, tied between two plastic cups. Here, you take one. Can you hear me now? I know. Pretty basic, almost as basic as electricity, right? But we all know this is the beginning of major mass transit. What was the next city to do it? It was Boston. New York City was actually the second city to implement the modern-day subway. Boston with the T, all right, which, of course, was the first opportunity for all those Bostonians to get the heck off the Big Dig Highway out there. If you're from New England, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So 1870, first pneumatic or first subway introduced here in the U.S. Now, 1919, and then 10 years later, this day in 1919, the Grand Canyon is declared a national park. Grand Canyon, 2 billion years. That's right, with a B. The Grand Canyon, if you've ever been there before, guys, in Arizona, in the high desert in Arizona, highly recommend it. It's a little bit of a bore after you've been there for a few hours, but I would definitely recommend the guy going down into the crevice. It's a mile down, 2 billion years of Earth history, all carved out by one of the most important rivers in the world, probably, the Colorado River. Remember, the Colorado River is what supplies fresh water to Los Angeles, right, to the southwest. So the Colorado River etched out the Grand Canyon in 2 billion years. Possibly the coolest thing I've ever seen. Again, not sure how long you want to sit there and look at this big hole in the ground, but it's pretty darn cool. Then, 10 years later, right, my boys out of France, who nicknamed the Grand Tetons, kids, earmuffs out there, adults, check out Grand Tetons, right? If you need to do a little bit of interpretation there, a little Google Translate, you can do that into French, and you'll figure out what that means. French explorers discovered it after some U.S. explorers were pushing west, right? Opening up some dude ranches. Okay, dude ranches were for Easterners trying to get some fun or some excitement in the West. Grand Tetons declared as a national park 10 years later, 1929. And then, of course, we can't forget about my good friend, Mr. Leeson. How could we forget? The model of our industry, right? The unbridled, the excitement that comes with being a day trader. In 1995, this day in 1995, Barings Bank, one of the oldest banks in the world, goes bankrupt after Nick Leeson, right, the rogue trader, lost more than $1.4 billion by basically not giving a you-know-what. He did whatever he wanted, didn't follow any rules, and you can see what happened. Now, the irony of all this is that Barings Bank, less than 100 years prior, had the same thing happen when they were speculating with South American bonds. They almost went bankrupt 100 years earlier. Did they not learn a lesson from that one? Apparently not. But Nick Leeson, today's newsletter goes out to you, my friend, and your talk show escapades and your book writing deals. I'll tell you, the good news is if you're a con artist or you're a failure in the big scheme, right? You get the Wolf of Wall Street, you got the Nick Leeson, right? Apparently, you still have a career on talk show appearances throughout the U.S. So, congratulations out there this day in history to Mr. Leeson. News for tomorrow. Got a lot on the calendar tomorrow. You ready for this? Lot on the calendar for tomorrow. Starting with China, we got GDP tonight, 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Last time I checked, that's in about 4.5 hours. GDP out of China, yeah, just might be a big deal. Red Star News, 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Be ready for it, all you overnight traders. Then tomorrow morning, we've got a whole slew of economic news coming out of Europe, starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we got durable goods orders tomorrow now in the U.S. We have a ton of big news tomorrow morning. You got to be ready for this tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a scalper's delight tomorrow morning. We got durable goods orders at 8:30, jobless claims at 8:30. Janet Yellen, my girl, Janet Yellen back at the Senate Banking Committee. Remember, she was supposed to be speaking 2 weeks ago, but who would have thunk it? It was snowing in Washington, D.C., so they postponed it till tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And we got, of course, that crazy NG. I keep getting students in the trade room saying, let's trade some natural gas. Let's trade some natural gas. And I'm going, guys, That's like saying removing the seatbelt from my Ferrari, right? I'll tell you right now, natural gas is for big boys and girls. Be careful trading natural gas, all right? Be careful. I've told you once. That's all I'm going to tell you again. Nat gas inventories tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And then we've got a whole slew of major Red Star news this time tomorrow evening coming out of Japan. So I'm excited for tomorrow morning. I've got durable goods at 8:30. Durable goods, crude. Durable goods, crude. Durable, you got it, right? Crude oil. Why? Durable goods, manufacturing. What do I think about for manufacturing? I think trucks, airplanes, factories. I think natural gas for heating and cooling, crude oil for shipping products. Guys, durable goods orders tomorrow morning. I am definitely watching to see what's happening on crude at that reaction. Jobless claims shortly thereafter. We've been watching jobless claims. Now remember, jobless claims are really important towards the end of the month. Why? What's next week? Guys, you know this one. What's next week? It's the first week of the month. What's the first Friday of the month? You know this, non-farm payrolls. Remember, the end of the month, desperation trades, right? End of the month, desperation trades. Beginning of the next month, non-farm payrolls. Why do we care? Because at the end of the month, you get more volatility because of all these desperation trades pulling a Nick Leeson. And then, of course, the first of next month, right, the first week, it's all the buildup of non-farm payrolls. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are very exciting. Thursday, kind of a drag. And then Friday, we have non-farm payrolls. So tomorrow, we've got some important news 1 week ahead of non-farm payrolls. Very, very important news tomorrow. And I'm very excited to see what Janet Yellen is wearing tomorrow morning, right? I want to see if she's matching. I'm kidding with you. I want to hear what comes out of her mouth. Janet Yellen, I can't wait to hear what she says about the weather. Because you know that's going to be everyone's minds. You know everyone's going to want to reach through that television and say, Janet, what's the deal with the weather? Are we really that worried? Or should I be just pushing this back to March? That's what everyone's wondering right now. Is the Fed taking these just poor news reports? Remember, the last few months have been nothing but horrible housing, horrible marketing or manufacturing news. So the U.S. has been getting beat up by Mother Nature lately, right? Apparently that global warming took a vacation. But apparently, though, we're going to hear from her tomorrow, and I can't wait to hear what she says in reaction to that undeniable question. Are these news reports really as bad as they're coming out? Or should we just write them off as being some bad weather snowstorms and wait for next month? Can't wait to hear what she says about that. Alrighty? So, lots of action today. Don't forget about those Grand Tetons. Gosh, man, what kind of newsletter is this again? Having fun with you guys. We like to have a little bit fun in a focused environment in our trade room. I hope you guys do too. Come out and see me tomorrow, 8 a.m. tomorrow. Open the trade room. But we're not done with you yet, though. Don't go leaving me yet. You've stuck around this long. Let's grab some charts. Let's get ready because I want to find us some levels to be prepared for tomorrow morning's news. Remember, this news starts in about 3.5 hours. Are you ready? Let's get ready right now. Section number 2. We'll see you on the opposite side.